right at the moment, a lot of people are dealing with not being able to provide work to their employees because of COVID, because of government lockdowns, border issues. So it can be a range of things. But I think the biggest, hottest issue at the moment is what they can and can't do, because overall, businesses want to do the right thing by their employees. A lot of the time, they just don't know what they can and can't do.
So joining me on the line today, I've got Karen Gillen from My HR Partner. Welcome to the call, Karen.
Thanks for having me, David.
It's a pleasure. Maybe tell us a bit about what My HR Partner does.
Yep, My HR Partner, we provide HR services to small businesses, and that can be anything from a business just needing an employment contract and some HR policies, for instance. We offer HR advice calls, so they can be on an ad hoc basis where people just pay for what they need and not what they don't need. Or it could be a business that might be a bit bigger who needs a more ongoing service. So basically anything a HR manager would do for a large organisation, I come in and do for a small one.
So tell me about the problems that you solve for people.
Yeah, there's a few problems. Dealing with people in businesses, there are always things that pop up. But I suppose the main things are helping people get through and finding out just what they need to know. You go into business to do what you're good at, not to particularly know all of the ins and outs about HR. So I help businesses through that process. And that can be things like a business doesn't know what pay rates they need to pay someone, or it could be they don't know what award covers their business and their employees. I can help people with managing performance if they're not too sure about what to do. And I can also help people through the process of what they need to know when they're about to employ people.
So given the current economy, what's the most common issues that you're having to deal with on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, right at the moment, a lot of people are dealing with not being able to provide work to their employees because of COVID, because of government lockdowns, border issues. So it can be a range of things. But I think the biggest, hottest issue at the moment is what can I do with my employee if I have no work? Can I stand them down? What does that mean? Do I have to pay them? All of those things about what they can and can't do, because overall, businesses want to do the right thing by their employees. A lot of the time, they just don't know what they can and can't do. Yeah.
So I suppose on that, how are people doing when the government puts a lockdown in place and there's no government funding, so there's no JobKeeper anymore? What are the rights what does a business owner do?
Yeah, so there's a few things, and it really will just depend on what the business is able to do. So I suppose the way I've been explaining to businesses is, I suppose your first option is you can stand down employees without pay. Yeah. Now, in normal circumstances, you can't stand down an employee with no pay just because you don't have work for them. Yep. But because this is out of your control, it's a government lockdown or a government directive, you're able to say to your employee, really sorry, but because of the lockdown, because we can't operate, we don't have work. So we need to stand you down without pay for a period of time. And then it's just a matter of reviewing that regularly to keep the employee informed. Yeah. And then the employee can go and apply for the disaster payment through Services Australia, and it's up to them now, whereas before with JobKeeper, it was the other way around. But then what they can also do, there are a few other options. You can afford to offer employees the ability to take some leave. They can also offer to do that. Not all businesses are in the position to have the money to do that, though. It's not something you have to do, but you can if you've got the money and you want to reduce your leave liability in this situation. But on the same hand, you can't force somebody to take annual leave. So if they don't want to, you can't force it upon them. Gotcha. You can also get your employees to work from home as well, which a lot of businesses have coped with quite well. It seems to be a lot of businesses, if you can work from home, they're taking advantage of that. But not so easy if you're in something like retail or construction or somewhere where you have to physically be there.
Yeah, gotcha. So that's one side of the problem. The other side of the problem is employment. And as you're probably painfully aware, we were expecting all-time high unemployment, but for some reason, it's really hard to find people at the moment. What's your thoughts around that?
It is very hard. Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I don't do a lot of recruitment in my business. I really am providing the services to businesses once they've got employees, but I'm talking to businesses all the time about these problems. And I think people are worried. As an employee, I think employees are thinking, I don't want to change because it's uncertain. And what if I go to this new business and then they put me off because it's a bit of an unknown? So I think people are staying put because it's a safer option. Yeah. And I had a bit of a prediction where I thought once JobKeeper finishes, it might be a bit better because people will be more willing to look at what's out there and move around a bit more. But now we've been hit with Delta, I think people are back to that whole thing of not really wanting to step out of their comfort zone into the unknown, if you like.
Yeah, it's a funny situation to be in, isn't it, where people are just frozen in time.
Yeah.
And it's really quite difficult for people who are growing to actually find good people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, just on a lighter note, you've been in business for a while, Karen. What's the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
I think just be consistent and just offer a good service. I like to help people. And I think another piece of really good advice that I've really taken on board probably later that I should have is value what you do as well. So look, I love to help people and I'm happy to give a bit of free advice, but I think make sure that you value what you do in your business so people will value it as well.
Right. So value your own value, not value to provide to clients.
Yeah, I think so. And I suppose that translates to giving good value to clients. But yeah, I think just know your worth, know the limits of being generous with your time and your resources, and also valuing that you're making a living as well.
Yeah, that's all right. You're preaching to the converted. The amount of people I have to talk about valuing your own time to as business people, they just don't, they think they're worth nothing.
Yeah.
Because they don't count their time. They just look at it as it's a free commodity. But interesting. Very good. Let me ask you, do you read any books in business, anything like that?
Yeah, I don't read fiction. So whatever I do read is business related, and it's on Audible for me.
What's the topical book for you right now?
Somebody has just given me a book called Winning, so I'm looking forward to reading that soon. That's coming up next. But one of my favorites is called The Ideal Team Player. And it's a book that is really great if you employ people and you want to get some tips about having a good team and having a good culture.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember who wrote it?
Yep, Patrick Lencioni. Sorry, Patrick Lencioni. Yep. Yeah, he's written a few other books in the same sort of vein. I think another one's called Five Dysfunctions of a Team. Yeah, so he's got some great books, but that's probably my favourite.
Yeah, fantastic. And just as we wrap up, if you were going to leave people with one piece of advice for what they should be looking for in their business right now.
From a people point of view, from a HR point of view, yeah, just treat your employees, do the right thing. And I think the thing is most businesses out there are doing that, but they're your number one most valuable resource. So look after good people. And also, look, if you do need to let someone go, make the decision, do it quickly.
Yeah. And sometimes people think the customer is number one, but I think that's before they have employees, and then they realize that employees are their number one customer.
Absolutely. And if you've got good employees and they're happy, they're going to provide a great service to your customer.
Fantastic. Very good. All right, Karen, look, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate you sharing some of your insight with us.
No worries at all. Thanks for having me.